Amidst the pouring rain, a towering skyscraper stands tall with intricate, glowing electronic circuitry lines. Xin walks with Tian Kai under a black umbrella, asking about the time they have spent working side by side. Tian Kai glances briefly at his watch, calmly replying that it has been exactly 3 years since they started working together. Xin smiles enigmatically, promising a promotion once this deal is finalized. Tian Kai bows his head in gratitude, his eyes still fixed on the watch on his wrist. Sensing something amiss, Xin probes further, asking if there is an emergency situation unfolding. Tian Kai lets out a sly, sinister smirk, insisting that everything is fine and their pickup car has arrived. A car rushes towards them through the rain, and Xin and Tian Kai move toward it together. The car's headlights beam directly at Xin and Tian Kai, engulfing them both in a blinding glare. Xin is stunned, his eyes wide with shock at the sudden turn of events. In a split-second decision, Tian Kai suddenly shoves Xin out of the safety zone. The accelerator is floored, and the car speeds away at a terrifying pace. Xin stumbles, losing his balance and falling into the cold rain. Tian Kai stands there, looking down coldly at the suffering Xin. Xin lets out a pained groan, red blood mingling with the rain on his face. In a delirium, Xin watches as Tian Kai steals his position and everything he has worked for. Tiansai's triumphant, malevolent smile marks the downfall of Xin. A year later, the world is gripped by the craze known as Shin2, a virtual reality game taking the world by storm. Xin sits in a wheelchair, wearing a VR headset in a squalid room filled with trash. Xin roars in frustration, bitter that he cannot earn any in-game resources without money. In a fit of rage, Xin flings the VR device onto the floor. The impact causes Xin to lose his balance, pitifully tumbling out of his wheelchair. Xin hits the floor hard, with shards from a picture frame scattering all around him. The frame shatters completely, revealing sharp glass fragments lying scattered on the ground. An old photo appears, reminding him of the agony caused when Tian Kai seized everything and forced Xin's sister into marriage with him. Xin grinds his teeth, swearing to end Tian Kai and settle this blood feud. Under the deep blue sky, the Sunrise Corporation logo looms like a final challenge. Xin sits in his wheelchair, facing the door that swings open with a menacing presence. In the cold office, Tian Kai sits waiting, offering a mocking greeting as he sees Xin appear. Tian Kai flashes a cunning smirk, his sharp gaze behind his gold-rimmed glasses piercing through Xin. Xin remains unflinching, his resolute gaze returning the look. His sole purpose now is to find his family. Tian Kai casually adjusts his glasses, cruelly remarking that he has imprisoned Xin's sister for her resistance. Rage erupts, Xin grinds his teeth, his eyes burning with killing intent at Tiansai's arrogance. Tian Kai maintains a terrifyingly calm demeanor, looking down on Xin's current state with contempt. Tiansai's arrogance peaks as he insults Xin, calling him a worthless cripple. Refusing to be subdued, Xin pulls out a grenade, ready to drag Tian Kai down to hell with him. Tiansai's confidence completely vanishes, replaced by extreme panic as he faces imminent death. The safety pin is pulled, and the grenade leaves Xin's hand, flying through the air to Tiansai's sheer horror. A piercing explosion shattered the silence, followed by a violent eruption of fire that swallowed everything in its path. Xin lay motionless amidst the ruins, his clothes soaked in blood, his breathing fading with every passing moment. Through the thick smoke, Tian Kai emerged wreathed in dark energy. He had survived the blast thanks to his game-acquired abilities. Tian Kai laughed triumphantly, boasting about his power to manifest abilities from the game divine path into reality. Tian Kai stepped closer to Xin, mocking the defeated man gasping for breath beneath his feet. Coldly planting his heel on Xin's head, Tian Kai revealed a cruel secret. He was the one who orchestrated the car accident. Xin screamed in despair, his hatred for Tian Kai burning more fiercely than ever before. As Xin's consciousness faded into a pool of blood, his vow of revenge remained etched in his mind. A heavy silence filled the air until, suddenly, a strange light manifested on the hospital room's ceiling. Xin jolted awake, bolting upright in his hospital bed with ragged breaths, a sudden, miraculous revival. Looking around, Xin could not believe his eyes, wondering if this was reincarnation after death. A blissful smile spread across Xin's face as he realized heaven had granted him a chance to redo his life. Xin hastily pulled back the blanket, checking the legs that had once been crippled. Shock washed over Xin's face when he realized his legs had not yet fully recovered. The date on the clock left Xin stunned. He had traveled back in time by 1 year. Xin was struck by the realization that today was March 18, just 1 month after that horrific accident. Overwhelmed with frustration, Xin punched his bed, cursing fate for not sending him back any further. Suddenly, the door burst open and a young girl rushed in, her face etched with extreme anxiety. Xin's sister threw her arms around him, her tears bursting forth with joy at seeing him awake. Xin smiled with relief, his eyes filled with tenderness as he looked at his loved one. Xin Xiaotong, it is so good to see you again. Choking back tears, Shin Xiaotong gripped Shin Chang's hand and insisted, "What are you saying? I will take care of you for the rest of my life." In the shadows, Wang Quan stood with a sinister smile, forcing his victim to comply. "No, I must maintain this spirit." Shin Chang narrowed his eyes with determination, whispering to himself, "There is still time to fix everything. I must do something right now." Tian Kai entered the hospital room looking dapper, smiling as he greeted him. "Shin Chang, you've finally woken up." Putting on a fake show of remorse, Tian Kai lowered his voice. "I am truly sorry about the sudden accident. I failed to protect you in time." Shin Chang clenched his fists, his heart filled with indignation. "Tian Kai, I will expose you immediately. You are the murderer who harmed me." Tian Kai casually reported on the company's status. "By the way, while you were in a coma, the company handed everything over to me to manage. Don't worry about a thing, just focus on recovering. The person who caused the accident has already been caught." Suppressing his rage, Shin Ching calculated, "Wait, I cannot cut ties with Tian Kai just yet. I don't have concrete evidence. If I confront him now, he will exploit my chaotic mental state to deny the crime, or perhaps try to kill me again." Looking into the distance, Shin Chang wondered to himself, "What should I do now?" Tian Kai deliberately tried to separate Shin Xiaodong from Shin Ching. "Shin Xiaodong, Shin Chang's mind hasn't fully recovered yet. He needs rest. Why don't you come outside with me first?" Shin Ching suddenly realized something, stunned. "Huh?" Shin Chang's gaze turned toward the game notification displaying on the screen. "Divine Path has begun its test phase. The arrival time is drawing near." Tian Kai sneered arrogantly. "Ha, you didn't expect this, did you, Shin Chang? It seems the game Divine Path can truly bring its powers into reality." Tian Kai grabbed Shin Xiaodong's hand, urging her, "Let Shin Chang rest, let's go." Shin Chang roared, his eyes sharp as blades. "Don't touch my sister." Tian Kai froze, cold sweat streaming down his face. "Shin Chang?" Maintaining a cold expression, Shin Ching commanded, "I want to be alone with my sister for a moment. Tian Kai, you may leave. As for the company, keep handling it. After all, you are my most trusted subordinate." Tian Kai reluctantly turned back, struggling to maintain a smile. "Then I will head out first. Just call me if you need anything. No matter what happens, I will always be your man." Shin Chang watched his back, thinking with contempt, "Tian Kai, are you still acting?" Tian Kai stepped out of the room, slamming the door shut in frustration. Tian Kai gritted his teeth, his expression twisted with rage. "Damn it, why didn't Shin Chang just die in that accident back then?" Shin Xiaotong looked at Shin Chang with concern and asked, "Brother, is something wrong?" Shin Ching pointed forward, his voice firm. "Use all of our savings to help me buy that gaming equipment." The announcement for the game Shin 2 lit up, and the countdown had officially begun. Shin Xiaotong was stunned and blurted out, "Brother, why do you suddenly want to play games? Didn't you say that gaming addiction destroys one's fighting spirit?" Shin Ching clenched his fists, his eyes burning with intensity. "I will use it to rewrite my own destiny." A subordinate respectfully reports on Shin's situation, the man who liquidated his entire fortune just to get his hands on a gaming pod. The deputy manager smirks triumphantly. He is convinced that while Shin is lost in the virtual world, that seat of power will soon be his. The deputy manager's gaze lingers on an old photograph of Shin. He hurls threats, forcing Shin to abandon any ambition of returning forever. The deputy manager orders his subordinate to keep a close eye on Shin's every move. As long as he's still playing the game, every request must be met. The subordinate bows in obedience, showing absolute submission to the deputy manager's command. The deputy manager sternly reminds the subordinate how to address him. His authority has reached its absolute peak. Terrified, the subordinate hastens to change his form of address to please the new manager. At the hospital, Shin stands silently before the gaming pod, the vessel containing his final sliver of hope. From his wheelchair, Shin observes the high-tech machine. Today is the official launch of Divine Path, a life-changing opportunity, even if the price is astronomical. Shin tells himself that even if it costs his entire fortune, he has no regrets. The ability to bring in-game powers into reality is what he hungers for. Looking at his reflection in the glass, Shin still can't fathom how such an absurdity could actually become reality. Divine Path has officially launched its beta phase. Shin holds this classified information, and he's determined to exploit it to the fullest. Settling into the pod, Shin picks up the connection device. A name echoes like a reminder of the past. Donning the VR headset, Shin whispers with grim determination, "He will make everyone who betrayed him pay the price." Welcome to the world of Divine Path. The journey into the unknown lands has officially begun. Shin feels a sense of freedom in this virtual body. His physical disabilities have completely vanished, replaced by surging power. The system prompts him to create a new player. Shin doesn't hesitate, he already has an identity prepared. Shin decides to reuse his ID from his past life, Zhaojiu Wangu, to begin his new journey of conquest. The class selection screen appears with a series of powerful character types. Shin stands before a choice that will decide his destiny. Time is the most precious resource right now. Shin needs to quickly improve his stats before the major events unfold. Shin chooses the marksman class, a role he had mastered in his previous life. A beam of light envelopes Shun. The class transition process begins. Power is gradually awakening. As the light shines brilliantly, Shin emerges in a suit of imposing combat armor. He has officially become a marksman. The aura of a hidden profession flickers around Shin. He has received an unexpected reward. Shin smiles with satisfaction. It turns out this profession is so attractive that it's highly sought after. System announces that Shin has received the epic grade Night Clan bloodline, granting incredible stat bonuses during the night. Even though it's only effective at night, with these superior stats, Shin is confident he will leave all other players in the dust. The system prompts Shin to choose a starter gift pack. Before his eyes are shimmering treasure chests, promising a volatile start to his journey. Shin narrows his eyes at the sky-high prices. He knows all too well that this is just a blood-sucking trap set by the system. Recalling his past life, poverty meant Shin only owned trash equipment, making it impossible to compete. Shin cannot forget the one who robbed him of everything. Because of those dirty schemes, Shin fell behind in the level-up race. With nothing left to lose, Shin decides to bet it all. He stakes his entire fortune and corporate shares to exchange for the gold chest. The system begins evaluating Shin's assets. This is a do-or-die gamble. Shin has no way back. The appraisal is complete. All of Shin's assets have been mortgaged. The gold chest is officially unlocked. Reward phase begins. Shin stands frozen, anxiously awaiting his luck. The wheel spins at breakneck speed, emitting a mesmerizing golden glow. Cold sweat trickles down Shin's forehead. Tension grips him in this decisive moment. The wheel stops. A radiant symbol appears, signaling that the outcome has been decided. A surge of golden energy explodes, enveloping Shin. An extraordinary power begins to permeate through his body. Shin stood frozen in shock as he received a notification from the system. He had just obtained a God-tier ability evolution. Evolution? Shin couldn't believe his eyes. A true God-tier ability now belonged to him. The system listed the details. The evolution ability allows for the upgrading of equipment dropped by monsters. There is even a chance for a massive leap in quality with an extremely low success rate. Didn't stop there. The active effect, autonomous evolution, allows for everything to be upgraded by 2 levels with an hour cooldown. Shin flashed a confident smile. He knew he had made the right bet. While others were still grinding for bronze and silver gear, Shin would possess items of vastly superior quality. With this power, Shin was confident he would soon bring his in-game capabilities into reality. The system announced it was time to begin. Shin prepared to step into the world of the game. A blinding light enveloped Shin, teleporting him into the heart of this new world. Shin materialized in the middle of a bustling town. Countless players were already present the moment the server opened. Gazing at the crowd around him, Shin thought to himself that they were still using the same cheap VR gear he had used in his past life. Suddenly, a minor commotion caught Shin's attention. A group of players was shouting as they chased after a chicken. The sight was truly bizarre. They were shocked to discover that killing chickens also granted experience points and even chicken meat. Seeing this, the people nearby immediately joined the hunt with great excitement. Shin could only shake his head in disappointment. He thought to himself that these people were far too easily satisfied. Uninterested in the chaotic crowd, Shin turned away to seek out a more significant target. Seeing Shin walk away, that group of players didn't let him go, shouting after him in frustration. Shin ignored them all. He headed straight for the forest outside the town, the real place for those who wanted to become stronger. Shin knew he had to quickly hunt monsters to level up. The reward for the first person to take down a boss was immense, and he couldn't let anyone else snatch it away. Before venturing into danger, Shin opened his inventory to check his gear. Currently, he only possessed a beginner's bow and tattered cloth armor. Looking at these basic items, Shin sighed because they held absolutely no value for evolution. If he couldn't evolve anything, it would be difficult for Shin to widen the power gap between himself and other players. Furthermore, the evolution skill could only be used once a day. Wasting it would be a huge mistake. Shin's gaze sharpened as he carefully scanned for anything else that possessed the potential to be upgraded. Suddenly, a bold idea flashed through his mind. Shin looked down at his own hands and decided to take a gamble. Shin activated his evolution target, the Night Clan bloodline. Instantly, surges of black lightning began to envelop Shin's body. Dark energy erupted violently, swallowing Shin's silhouette in a cloud of thick black smoke. From the darkness, a massive and authoritative entity gradually manifested behind Shin like a guardian god. The evolution process officially began, and the entity's eyes flashed brilliantly amidst the gloom. The form of a majestic armored warrior with a blazing blue flame atop its head slowly revealed itself. The surrounding space seemed to shatter under the crushing pressure of the new power taking shape. Bizarre eye on the entity's armor snapped open, marking the birth of a power beyond control. The system announced the successful evolution into the Night King bloodline. An overwhelming aura radiated from behind Shin. His stats skyrocketed. Shin received an additional percent to his hit rate, critical rate, and attack speed. Most notably, his maximum HP increased by points, and every third strike was guaranteed to deal critical damage. Massive entity vanished, as all that ultimate power had now merged as one with Shin's body. Feeling the energy surging through his veins, Shin flashed a confident smile now that his crazy plan had actually succeeded. The system notification window pops up, showing Shin's stats skyrocketing after activating the vitality reward. Shin is stunned to realize that his bloodline can actually evolve. This newfound power makes solo hunting a breeze. Entering the wolf's territory, Shin decides to take full advantage of his doubled strength during the night. Footsteps echo through the darkness as Shin cautiously ventures deeper into the perilous forest. Suddenly, Shin freezes, his eyes narrowing as he senses something unusual in the air. Up ahead, a group of hunters is frantically pursuing a wounded wolf, raining down a relentless barrage of arrows and sword strikes. Hiding behind the foliage, Shin observes the group, silently judging their cleverness but noting their failure to optimize their spoils. The Hunter Guild warrior laughs triumphantly, cornering the prey as he waits for the perfect moment to level up. Shin watches the hunters with contempt, knowing full well that they are walking straight into their own graves. Shin mutters to himself about how foolish these people are for not understanding the pack mentality of wolves. The guild warrior shouts, urging his teammates to charge in and finish off the prey together. The wolf throws its head back and howls, a piercing sound that tears through the air like a signal to summon its kin. From the shadows, countless pairs of glowing red eyes emerge, surrounding the hunters from all sides. Constant growls fill the air as the wolf pack appears in overwhelming numbers. The trees shake violently as dark shadows leap through the canopy. The hunters are struck with horror as they realize they have been completely encircled by the ferocious pack. A guild member panics, unable to believe his eyes at the sheer number of enemies facing them. A wolf lunges directly at a hunter, its razor-sharp claws pinning him down in an instant. Blood splatters everywhere as the hunter's agonizing screams echo throughout the forest. Arrows are fired incessantly, yet the wolves keep charging forward like relentless ghosts. Another hunter trembles, backing away in utter despair as the enemy closes in. A massacre unfolds as the wolf pack shreds every ounce of resistance from the hunting party. The guild warrior tries to fight back, screaming from the brutal, agonizing realism of the pain. A trembling hunter cries out for help, but there is absolutely no one left to save him. Surrounded by the pack, the hunter can only manage a bitter laugh before he is finished off. Seeing that the moment is right, Shin draws his bow, gathering a surge of azure mana at the arrowhead. A massive entity manifests behind Shin, pulling the bowstring back with him, ready to unleash a decisive strike. Shin lets out a knowing smirk. He is the true hunter, simply waiting for the prey to fall into his trap. Shin releases an arrow that pierces the wind, flying straight toward his target. The arrow hits its mark dead-on, taking down the wolf instantly. Shin levels up, gaining additional vitality points and a boost to his basic stats. Collecting the spoils of war, Shin activates his passive evolution ability from the wolf meat. Refusing to rest, Shin continues to face the aggressive wolves charging toward him. Shin observes calmly, treating this as a perfect opportunity to test his damage output and other attributes. The wolf's pounce nearly grazes him, but Shin effortlessly dodges it in the nick of time. Shin challenges the wolves, ready to go toe-to-toe with them in a contest of speed. Shin accelerates, leaving the wolf pack behind with astonishing speed. Despite having just leveled up, Shin is still amazed by the sheer power flowing from his bloodline. With his superior evasion skills, Shin decides to set his sights on a bigger target, the area boss. Shin swiftly maneuvers through the forest while the pack of wolves remains in hot pursuit. Realizing the gap in their speed, the wolves are forced to come to a halt. Shin steps into a new land, where brilliant sunlight floods the landscape. Shin realizes he has entered a higher-level zone, the habitat of dangerous creatures. Suddenly, a group of strangers appears and greets Shin. A Hunter Guild member, along with Yu and a Hunter Guild warrior, invites Shin to join their party. Yu enthusiastically invites Shin to hunt monsters with them, confident that they are the first to arrive here. The Hunter Guild member objects, dismissing Shin as nothing more than a weakling. Shin declines the offer, choosing to carve out his own path. The Hunter Guild warrior grows angry, hurling sarcastic remarks at Shin's choice. Shin stands his ground, asserting his desire to level up on his own. The Hunter Guild warrior warns Shin about the perils lurking in the lands below. The Hunter Guild warrior threatens Shin with severe penalties should he fall in battle. Shin smiles, calmly thanking the Hunter Guild warrior for the reminder. The Hunter Guild member sighs, shaking his head at Shin's stubbornness. Shin bids the group farewell and continues on his journey. Shin marches forward without looking back. Ahead of Shin lies the land of the spotted python, a place riddled with danger and sun-bleached bones. Standing at the threshold of danger, Shin declares his arrival. Shin ventures deep into the forbidden zone, where the spotted python hides in the shadows. Spotted python emerges, the very beast that tormented Shin in his past life is now roaring threateningly. Activating his analytical vision, Shin quickly identifies the critical weak spot right behind the spotted python's neck. The system displays the spotted python's stats level with HP. The beast lunges forward with terrifying speed. With HP thanks to the Spirit King lineage, Shin is confident that he is even more durable than the spotted python. The thunderous roar, the spotted python swings its massive tail, sweeping across the air. Shin immediately turns alert, recognizing the familiar attack coming his way. Drawing upon his past combat experience, Shin easily dodges the blow and counters with an energy arrow. Buffed by the system's speed boost, Shin confidently asserts that the spotted python cannot lay a finger on him. Shin continuously fires arrows of light, forcing the spotted python onto the defensive. An arrow embeds itself straight into the spotted python's head, draining points of vitality. Despite his superior stats, Shin feels slightly annoyed that this lineage does not boost his attack power. The spotted python refuses to submit, lashing out with its tail so violently that Shin is forced to leap onto a cliff to evade it. Shin calmly maintains his distance, deciding to use a kiting strategy to finish off the spotted python. Spotted python attempts to use its tail to block Shin's arrows, but it is completely futile. Shin nimbly hops across the rocks, denying the spotted python any chance to close the distance. Arrows continue to pierce the spotted python, slowly whittling down its health. Shin flashes a challenging grin, eager to see whether his speed or the creature's ferocity will prevail. The spotted python launches a surprise attack, but Shin manages to raise his bow in time to parry. Not stopping there, the spotted python spews a stream of deadly green energy toward Shin. Shin is facing the perilous venom breath skill of the Azure Dragon. The poison continuously eats away at Shin's vital energy. Each damage number popping up shows just how precarious Shin's situation has become. Shin silently calculates how much time he has left to survive before he collapses. Shin activates his ultimate, Life Arrow, guaranteeing that every third strike will be a critical hit. The arrow tears through the wind, hurtling straight toward the Azure Dragon. The Azure Dragon is caught off guard by the sheer speed of Shin's attack. Consecutive arrows embed themselves deep into the Azure Dragon's body. Critical damage erupts across the Azure Dragon's hide. The Azure Dragon lets out a furious roar as it is pushed into a corner by Shin. Shin is confident in his strategy of stacking critical damage. The Azure Dragon slams its tail onto the ground, triggering a violent tremor. Shin nimbly dodges the attack and launches a counter-assault in midair. The Azure Dragon's impenetrable defense leaves Shin unable to find a single opening. The Azure Dragon growls, waiting for the perfect moment to retaliate against Shin. Shin unleashes a strike from above, aiming directly at the Azure Dragon. Shin's critical hit lands square on the Azure Dragon's weak point. Shin realizes the fatal weak spot is located on the creature's lower abdomen. The Azure Dragon uses its tail to devastate the surrounding terrain. The ground collapses, forcing Shin into a difficult spot. Shin is stunned by the Azure Dragon's ability to manipulate the terrain. Shin's HP continues to dwindle while he remains poisoned. Accumulated poison from the Azure Dragon causes the damage overtime effect on Shin to increase steadily. Shin remains optimistic about the valuable rewards awaiting him once the Azure Dragon is defeated. Shin pulls an item from his inventory to recover. Shin consumes the high-grade wolf meat to restore his strength in the heat of battle. The effect takes hold instantly. Shin gains 20 HP recovery per second and a 10% speed boost for the next 20 seconds. Shin realizes that even if he can't cure the poison, this recovery is enough to offset the damage eating away at his health. Wasting not a single second, Shin immediately exploits the speed buff to close the distance on the Azure Dragon. Shin unleashes a powerful skill, declaring that the only way to cure his poison is to end the Azure Dragon right here. The strike lands true on the Azure Dragon's weak point, dealing 50 critical damage. The Azure Dragon howls in agony as a deep gash appears on its massive frame. Shin smirks, declaring the Azure Dragon has no escape now that the moment of execution has arrived. Shin keeps the pressure up, arrows of light tear through space and lock onto their target. Another 58 damage is dealt, and the Azure Dragon completely loses the ability to fight back. Shin focuses all his remaining power into a final arrow, coldly sending the Azure Dragon to its final rest. The finishing blow deals 300 ultimate damage, and the Azure Dragon collapses at Shin's feet. With the death of the Azure Dragon, the poison status on Shin completely vanishes. The system announces that Shin is the first player to defeat the boss, earning the first kill achievement and engraving his name on the Hall of Fame. Shin tells himself that he's finished with hiding in the shadows for so long. Shin decides not to remain anonymous. He wants his name to strike fear into the entire world. A special announcement echoes across the entire server, declaring that Shin has defeated the Azure Dragon boss. The news spreads rapidly, even reaching the beginner village, leaving every player there in complete shock. One beginner is so stunned that he drops the chicken he was holding, unable to believe that the beginner area boss has been taken down. Other players are equally astonished, questioning how someone could have achieved this feat so soon after the server opened. In another forest, a group of players is working together to hunt wolves, still oblivious to the shocking event that just occurred. One of them smugly claims that his group must surely be the leaders in terms of boss hunting. Pilot excitedly agrees, convinced that no one can surpass them, and begins dreaming of the prestigious rewards. The group remains lost in their excitement, completely unaware of the notification about to appear. The leader of the group confidently declares that if they follow him, they will soon become famous. Just at that moment, the notification about Shin defeating the Azure Dragon boss appears right before their eyes. The expressions on the group members' faces shift from smugness to pure shock, unable to believe what they are seeing. The leader of the group screams in anger and disbelief, unable to accept that someone is stronger than him, especially a solo player. Pilot freezes, only able to gasp and ask about the true identity of the Shin who just snatched away their glory. Shin activates his leveling aura, and a burst of blue energy erupts, enveloping his body. The system confirms that Shin has reached level 7. Shin cannot hide his excitement, as this massive 5-level jump is the well-deserved reward for the high-stakes gamble he just took. The system notification confirms it. Shin has officially reached level 7. His true power is beginning to awaken. Right before Shin's eyes, 3 floating blue crystals appear. The system identifies them as crystal coins, a rare, extinct currency used to exchange for special items or boost favorability with in-game characters. Shin exclaims in surprise, "Crystal coins?" Though he only knew of them by reputation in his past life, Shin fully understands their value. He quickly collects this precious currency, securing a massive advantage for the future. Not stopping there, Shin discovers a treasure chest shimmering with golden light hidden deep within the cliffside. Shin channels his mana, drawing all the loot into his personal inventory. Each item and every gold coin is sucked into Shin's storage space, one after another. With the loot cleared, Shin stands firm in the center of the labyrinth, ready for the challenges ahead. The system continues to notify. Shin has received Silver Snake, a silver-grade shortsword with 28 attack power and the Snake Kiss poison effect. Shin sighs, "A pity it's a sword and not a bow. Even if I can't use it, selling it will still fetch a nice profit." Next is the blue scale armor, also silver grade, providing 25 defense and a scale shield effect that creates a 300-point barrier. Shin smiles, "Now this is great. Ordinary scale armor doesn't usually come with special effects like this." Despite how powerful the gear is, Shin still needs to reach level 10 to equip it. Shin mutters to himself, "My luck isn't the best. None of these items are tailored for my class." Frustrated that the newbie boss didn't drop anything better, Shin can't help but complain about the unfairness of the system. Suddenly, Shin remembers he still has the silver-grade treasure chest he hasn't opened yet. With a flick of his wrist, Shin summons the chest out of thin air. Shin stands there, his eyes filled with anticipation as he gazes at the glowing chest. Shin shouts, "Open, please, don't give me trash for another class." The chest bursts with light, revealing the prize inside. A stream of blue light coalesces into the image of sharp arrows. The system confirms Shin has received the 7-star Rapid Fire, a silver-grade skill that allows him to fire 7 arrows dealing true damage based on a percentage of max HP. Shin cheers, "This is the god-tier skill I've been waiting for." Shin resolves, "I'm level 7, I need to grind to level 10 as quickly as possible to activate the skill. My power will change completely." Just then, a weak voice echoes from the shadows, "Is anyone there? Help me." Shin doesn't hesitate and immediately lunges toward the source of the sound. There, Shin finds Mimi being surrounded by strange, bizarre snakes. Mimi backs away in terror, pleading for help as the aggressive snakes close in. Shin is stunned. "Isn't that Mimi? An ordinary NPC in the city. Why is she in a dangerous place like this?" Mimi is in a precarious situation, desperately begging for rescue from the giant serpent looming over her. Shin calmly reassures Mimi that the threat has been eliminated, while pondering the mysterious clue he once knew. Mimi acts frail, feigning a leg injury to ask Shin to carry her out of the cave. Without a moment's hesitation, Shin moves toward Mimi to fulfill her request, ignoring the lingering dangers hidden nearby. Shin gently lifts Mimi, and this action shifts the atmosphere between them. Shin quickly leaves the cave with Mimi in his arms, escaping the danger in the blink of an eye. Now safe outside, Shin watches as Mimi rests on a rock. Mimi expresses deep gratitude, and the system notifies that his favorability with Mimi has increased significantly. Mimi reaches out and hands Shin 2 silver coins as a reward for his dedicated help. Shin looks at the 2 silver coins, knowing that for an ordinary person this is no small amount of money. However, Shin clearly remembered the instructions from before that he must absolutely not accept this reward from Mimi. Shin declined the gift, asserting that he simply wanted to help others. Shin's noble act made Mimi deeply moved, and her favorability toward him increased once again. Seizing the opportunity, Mimi continued to ask Shin for help with another, more important matter. Mimi's patience suggested that she had a hidden agenda of her own. Shin enthusiastically agreed, firmly stating that he would do his best to assist Mini. Choked with emotion, Mini shared that her daughter had gone missing and begged Shin to find the child. Immediately, the system triggered a hidden quest: find Mini's daughter. Shin couldn't help but be amazed that this hidden quest actually existed, just as he had known. Shin confidently promised to find her daughter at all costs, earning Mini's complete trust. Mini explained that while they were on their way to the novice town, her daughter had been lured away by a sprite and they lost contact. Mini sorrowfully stated that she had searched the entire cave in the Snake Valley but found no trace of her daughter. Shin listened intently, questioning her further to grasp the most critical clues. Mini shared information about a hidden area located south of Snake Valley, which had an extremely well-concealed entrance. Shin felt confident because he had lived through his previous life where he knew the novice area map like the back of his hand. Based on the clues, Shin deduced that the Demon Spider Cave was the place where Mini's daughter was being held captive. Shin excitedly announced he would head out immediately, leaving Mini surprised at his swiftness. Wasting no time, Shin dashed off like a gust of wind, leaving Mini staring blankly at his retreating figure. Mini hurriedly reached out to stop Shin with a worried look on her face. She asked him to turn back to look at a photo of her daughter before continuing his journey. Shin didn't care, he kept walking with determination. For Shin, remembering the girl's face had been under his control for a long time. Memories of his past life flooded into Shin's mind. Every time he turned in a quest to Madame Gu, that mischievous daughter would often tease him. Just as Shin remembered, the girl still maintained the playful look. She winked and teased Shin with a sarcastic question about why he was still stuck in the novice village after all this time. Shin quickly locates his target on the map, heading straight for the desolate village ahead. Shin reminds himself to quickly find the cursed village, which holds the path to the demon spider's lair. Deep in the forest, Shin is suddenly surrounded by strange creatures lurking, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Shin stops before the ruins of a village, where the air is thick with the stench of death. Dilapidated houses and thick cobwebs everywhere, a scene of utter desolation unfolds before Shin's eyes. Shin lets out a confident smirk, confirming that he has arrived at the right location. Suddenly, an enemy appears on a rooftop, its crimson eyes staring intensely at Shin. Shin approaches an old stone well, which seems to hide an entrance deep underground. Shin inspects the mouth of the well, certain that the demon spider's lair lies right beneath him. Suddenly, a surprise attack comes from behind. Shin instantly senses the danger. With sharp reflexes, Shin dodges skillfully, causing the enemy's weapon to slam hard into the ground. Without giving the enemy time to react, Shin delivers a thunderous kick, blowing the opponent back. The enemy roars in fury, lunging at Shin with bloodthirsty instinct. Shin releases an arrow of light, piercing the enemy's chest with absolute precision. The enemy is blasted into the air, completely losing all control. Shin draws his bow, finishing off the fallen enemy with cold-blooded efficiency. Lethal strike from Shin ends the enemy's resistance for good. As the enemy's corpse collapses, Shin stands there, completely dominating the battlefield. Shin confidently asserts that thanks to his hunting experience, he knows the location of every enemy and will never fall into a trap. Small spiders begin crawling out of the enemy's corpse, revealing their terrifying parasitic nature. Shin realizes the villagers have been turned into hosts, and if he doesn't act now, the monsters will only continue to multiply. Without hesitation, Shin ruthlessly crushes the spiders crawling out. Shin feels a surge of new power as all of his stats skyrocket. Shin knows the demon spider queen is waiting, and the best time to strike is when night falls. As the sunset fades, Shin patiently waits for his opportunity. 2 hours pass, and darkness envelopes everything. Activating the Night King bloodline, Shin receives immense power from the shadows. It's time for the real hunt to begin. Shin is ready to enter the enemy's lair. Shin plunges deep into the dark lair, where thick layers of spider silk cover every passage. Landing on the cold ground, Shin quickly drops into a combat stance, his sharp eyes scanning the surroundings. Fortunately, Shin possesses night vision, otherwise he would have struggled to find his way through this maze. Under Shin's gaze, desiccated corpses lie scattered, tightly wrapped in spider silk like soulless puppets. A sense of unease washes over Shin every time he sets foot in this demonic place. Suddenly, from the darkness, grotesque spiders emerge, crawling all over the rock walls to surround Shin. Shin knows all too well that these spiders explode into toxic clouds upon death, weakening anyone they touch. Unable to eliminate them head-on, Shin is forced to use his bow to maintain a safe distance. Energy arrows rip through the air, piercing straight into the oncoming spiders. A precise arrow pins a spider to the rock wall, preventing the toxic explosion from spreading. Shin cautiously reminds himself that he cannot afford a single misstep. A bright red notification flashes before Shin's eyes, warning of an imminent danger. Despite knowing the danger, Shin merely smiles, well aware that great rewards always come with high risks. Venturing deeper, Shin is stunned by the sight of vibrant purple spider cocoons pulsating beneath his feet. Suddenly, a desperate cry for help rings out, forcing Shin to halt his steps. Looking up, Shin sees Mimi hanging precariously, tightly bound in layers of white silk. Shin looks at the panicked Mimi with zero emotion, speaking with a sarcastic tone. Tears streaming down her face, Mimi begs Shin to save her from the clutches of death. Shin coldly replies, stating he's just a passerby with no intention of playing the hero. Mimi screams in despair, praying she won't end up as monster food. Gripping his weapon, Shin asks Mimi if she still dares to speak to him so disrespectfully. Mimi frantically swears an oath, promising to do anything Shin asks as long as he saves her. Confused by Shin's attitude, Mimi wonders if this is really the first time they've met. Shin draws his bow, confirming that the deal has been struck. A massive shadow with glowing red eyes appears from behind, leaving Mimi paralyzed with fear. Demon Spider Queen reveals herself. A special quest target has appeared. Shin is shocked to realize the situation has spiraled out of control, far different from anything he previously knew. Even so, Shin doesn't back down, seeing this as the perfect chance to test his own strength. Demon Spider Queen wastes no time, firing a beam of energy at Shin. Mimi is terrified by Shin's level, unable to understand why he would recklessly confront such a monster. Shin doesn't flinch before his opponent. Thanks to the speed buff from his Night King bloodline, he confidently challenges the enemy despite the massive level gap. A sharp strand of spider silk suddenly shoots out, embedding itself into a large boulder with a deafening crash. The attacker slowly emerges with murderous red eyes, locking onto Shin and preparing for the next strike. Shin instantly goes on high alert, his eyes tracking the silk that just tore through the air, nearly skewering him. Without giving the enemy a chance to react, Shin swings his sword with lightning speed to cut the silk, mockingly sneering at the enemy's sluggish pace. Shin focuses all his energy, drawing his magical bow taut as a brilliant blue aura erupts, enveloping the arrow. Without a second of hesitation, Shin leaps into the air and releases the arrow, which tears through the air toward its target. The arrow streaks forward at terrifying speed, aiming straight for the horrific spider-like creature. Unbelievably, the creature stops Shin's arrow with just one hand right before its face. Shin stands stunned, his eyes wide with shock at the absurd power of his opponent. Immediately, the spider demon counterattacks, swirling dark magic into a storm of silk that engulfs Shin. Mimi, trapped within a silk cocoon, screams a warning for Shin to protect his ears immediately. Hearing Mimi's warning, Shin instantly raises his hands to cover his ears to brace for the incoming sonic attack. The sonic wave blasts violently, hurling Shin away and leaving him completely disoriented. Shin lands heavily, his health significantly depleted after taking the direct hit. The system warns that paralysis and blindness are plaguing Shin, hampering his movement speed and vision. Shin cannot help but feel shaken by the monstrous skills of his opponent. Mimi, still inside the silk cocoon, tries to urge Shin to look down at his feet. On the ground, a multitude of spider eggs hatch simultaneously, releasing countless aggressive spiderlings. Shin finds himself surrounded by the swarm of spiderlings crawling everywhere. Shin kicks out hard, clearing the spiders rushing toward him, and shouts for them to stay back. The spiders keep surging forward like a purple tide, their hissing echoing throughout the cavern. Shin grinds his teeth, his patience is wearing thin against the overwhelming number of enemies. The spiderlings have latched onto Shin's cloak and armor, putting him in a desperate situation. They start biting, and Shin has to endure the sharp pain from their stings. Shin is determined to find an opening to counterattack. He cannot let himself be taken down by these pesky spiders. Shin exerts himself, causing a burst of energy to blast the spiders off his body. The spider demon doesn't give Shin a moment's rest, spitting out a sharp, venomous lance made of webbing. The web lance slices through the wind, flying straight at Shin with incredible speed. Shin nimbly dodges, and the lance slams into the floor, triggering a magical explosion. The system notifies him that the debuffs have worn off. Shin realizes this is his chance for a direct confrontation with the spider demon. Mimi cries out in despair, fearing that Shin will soon meet the same tragic fate as her. As he dodges the next volley of web lances, Shin realizes that attacking the spider demon's upper body is nearly impossible. Shin decides to leap, looking to shift his strategy to escape the deadlock. Utilizing his agility, Shin launches himself into the air, grabbing onto the thick web strands to find a new angle of attack. The spider demon lets out a piercing shriek, its burning red eyes locked onto the target leaping above. Shin calculates through gritted teeth. He knows that as he approaches, the demon will trigger the spider sonic wave, but this is his only chance to strike back. Suddenly, Shin flips in mid-air, using the spider's silk itself to bind his feet as a solid anchor point. Witnessing such a strange action, Mimi is alarmed, wondering why he would tie his own feet. Is he planning to take the hit head-on? As expected, the spider demon opens its maw wide, and a powerful sonic wave begins to charge, ready to crush Shin. The sonic wave erupts, creating violent tremors that spread throughout the labyrinth. Though the impact is strong enough to force a cry of pain from him, Shin holds on tenaciously, using all his strength not to be blown away. The moment the sonic wave subsides, Shin immediately raises his bow, his eyes sharp as he declares it's his turn to return the favor. Mimi gasps in amazement to see Shin still unharmed, suddenly realizing that his health pool is monstrously high, nearing 2,000 points. From above, Shin fires successive arrows of light that tear through the air, streaking straight toward the spider demon. However, the demon spider is no pushover. It easily snatches the first arrow out of the air without breaking a sweat. He smirks triumphantly, seemingly mocking Shin's futile attempt. Mimi screams in despair, convinced that such an old trick would never work on the demon spider. But suddenly, the second arrow changes course, tracing a miraculous curve to slip right behind the spider's back. A massive explosion slams into the creature's lower body, causing its health bar to plummet uncontrollably down to 1,044 points. Mimi realizes with a jolt that Shin had planned this all along. The first arrow was merely a decoy to distract the spider's attention. Shin flashes a confident smile. His true target was the critical weak spot located on the demon spider queen's back. Hope sparks in Mimi's eyes as she begins to believe that Shin truly has what it takes to defeat the terrifying demon spider. Wounded and enraged, the demon spider lunges forward, losing its composure and launching a frenzied assault. Shin retreats while continuously firing pinning arrows, maintaining a safe distance from the creature. Shin darts nimbly through the webs, dodging deadly lunges from the bloodthirsty spider. Mimi screams in panic, warning Shin to get off the web immediately as it is secreting a highly adhesive mucus. Ignoring the warning, Shin keeps a cold expression, maintaining intense focus on his every movement. The battle intensifies as Shin leaps back and forth between layers of silk, creating a moving labyrinth that disorients the spider. Mimi grows furious at Shin's stubbornness, certain that ignoring her advice will cost him dearly. Strange purple streaks begin to appear around Shin, but he only mutters that everything will be finished in just a moment. Finally, Shin lands on a thick strand of web, but his entire body is now coated in the sticky purple mucus, making every movement a struggle. Mimi is utterly disappointed. Just when she started to trust him, Shin has gone and trapped himself in such a sticky situation. Demon Spider Queen looms over Shin, triumphantly eyeing her trapped prey as she prepares to deliver the finishing blow. The Spider Queen lets out a triumphant hiss, her glowing red eyes filled with utter contempt for the cornered Shin. Instantly, she launches a spear of purple energy, tearing through the air as it streaks downward. Below, Shin remains tightly bound by the webbing, seemingly helpless against the terrifying power of the final strike. Even with his life hanging by a thread, a close-up reveals that Shin is wearing a mysterious smile. Beads of sweat roll down his face, yet his confidence remains unshaken, as if he has a trump card ready to turn the tide. The magic silk thread snaps, signaling that the shadow-tainted monster is spiraling out of control. Mimi is left in utter shock, unable to believe her eyes as the scene unfolds before her. Shin moves with lightning speed, seizing the opening to rescue Mimi from the spider's web. Mimi realizes that Shin used an arrow to sever the connection between the spider silk and the wall. Mimi falls in a panic, crying out for Shin's help immediately. Shin lunges forward, catching Mimi with a decisive, swift motion. Mimi cannot help but be amazed by Shin's sharp instincts and intelligence. The shadow-tainted monster roars in fury, charging straight toward Shin. Shin sets Mimi down on safe ground, bracing himself to face the looming danger. Mimi grumbles about Shin's rough landing. Shin coldly cuts her off, demanding she stay silent because the battle is far from over. The shadow-tainted monster begins to chant, unleashing a terrifying sonic magic spell. Shin narrows his eyes in caution, realizing this might be another sonic-based attack. Terrified, Mimi huddles close to Shin, seeking protection. The shadow-tainted monster summons a swarm of spiderlings, surrounding them both. The hissing of the spiders echoes, filling the entire space. Shin stands protectively in front of Mimi, facing the encroaching swarm. Shin calculates quickly, deciding to retreat and preserve his strength because the shadow-tainted monster is too powerful. Without hesitation, Shin grabs Mimi's hand and dashes away as the spiders pursue them. Suddenly, a magic barrier appears, blocking Shin's path. The forceful impact sends Shin sprawling to the ground, leaving a panicked Mimi standing by his side. Shin clutches his head in pain, wondering why a barrier would appear here. Shin realizes with indignation that this is a mandatory quest that the system failed to notify him about. Mimi smirks, informing Shin that he has no way out and must defeat the shadow-tainted monster. Shin snaps at her, warning Mimi that if he dies, she won't survive either. Mimi remains calm, believing that another hero will come to rescue her. Shin suddenly remembers that Mimi's treasure chest is filled with legendary equipment. Shin confidently declares that he is the very hero Mimi has been waiting for. Mimi looks anxiously at the closing swarm, urging Shin to find a way out. Watching the swarm close the circle, Shin realizes the dire situation. The thick spider silk under their feet is the very thing he cut earlier. A flash of inspiration hits. Shin grips his glowing arrow and flashes a confident smile. Shin's armored hand quickly grabs the flexible spider threads floating in the air. He skillfully wraps the silk tightly around the arrowhead, preparing for a special attack. At that exact moment, Mimi's desperate cry for help startles Shin, forcing him to turn back. The spiderlings have swarmed over Mimi, causing her HP to drop rapidly, now down to only 470 points. Seeing the dire situation, Shin immediately lunges to rescue his panicked companion. Suddenly, from above, the giant shadow-tainted monster strikes down with a powerful blow aimed directly at Shin. With lightning-fast reflexes, Shin scoops up Mimi and leaps high into the air to dodge the monster's finishing blow. They land on a safe ledge, but they are still surrounded by layers of spider silk and traps. Shin silently assesses that the difficulty of this battle has reached hell level, as he must deal with the Spider Queen while protecting Mimi. He moves continuously between the tangled webs, performing spectacular leaps to evade the enemy's sights. In stark contrast to Shin's tension, Mimi appears incredibly excited by this adrenaline rush. Shin skillfully uses the tip of his weapon to slide along the spider silk, sending sparks flying everywhere. Immediately, the Shadow Fiend monster fires a barrage of sharp purple energy beams, pursuing them relentlessly. The energy beams collide violently with the cliff walls and spider webs, creating a chain of explosions right at Shin's heels. Mid-air, Shin draws his bow and ignites a fiery arrow, preparing for a blazing counterattack. With a determined gaze, Shin shouts, commanding the flames to incinerate everything in their path. The fire arrow is released, leaving a streak of bright red light that tears through the darkness of the cave. The Shadow Fiend monster only has time to gasp in shock as the cataclysmic blast of fire rushes straight toward it. A massive explosion erupts, with flames spreading across the ground, burning away every layer of clinging spider silk. The baby spiders, unable to escape in time, are swallowed by the sea of fire, creating a scene of absolute chaos. Shadow Fiend monster roars in agony, trapped within the inferno created by Shin himself. Shin flashes a triumphant smile, seeing that his plan has worked beyond expectations. Mimi cannot hide her admiration, cheering and praising how incredibly cool Shin looks right now. Cornered, the Shadow Fiend monster screams in desperation amidst the rising flames. It suddenly launches a purple web toward the cave ceiling, attempting to find an escape route from the blaze. Shin looks up and discovers the monster is planning to flee by swinging up on its silk. Not giving his opponent a chance to escape, Shin coldly declares his intent and prepares to deliver the finishing blow. Shin launches himself into the air, delivering a critical strike that cuts through the lifeline, leaving the Shadow Fiend monster in total despair. Taking advantage of his momentum, Shin lets out a powerful roar, channeling all his strength into a final, decisive punch. The direct punch lands squarely on the Shadow Fiend monster's face with terrifying pressure, creating a massive explosion that shakes the entire space violently. The heat from the attack erupts into a sea of fire. Shin coldly watches as the Shadow Fiend monster screams in the inferno. Amidst the raging sea of fire, Shin confronts the monster head-on, both of their vitals rapidly depleting. Shin lunges straight at the monster, determined to end the battle with a surprise melee strike. Despite being surrounded by scorching flames, Shin maintains his stance, closing the distance to the monster without a shred of hesitation. Monster roars, the eyes on its mask glowing a fierce red, ready to counterattack. Shin challenges the monster, declaring that he will turn it into a grilled feast right here in this hellfire. Shin's strike lands heavily, colliding directly with the monster's sturdy armor. Shin braces himself, pouring all his strength into the punch, refusing to let the monster escape. The impact creates a violent shockwave, causing the surrounding air to tremble. The monster sneers, relishing the madness of the battle while Shin holds his ground. Shin is infuriated by the monster's arrogance, remaining completely unfazed by its mocking laughter. Shin unleashes a critical blow, aiming straight for a weak point on the monster's body. The hit leaves the monster dazed, stars swirling around its head. Shin doesn't miss the chance, clenching his fist to maintain pressure on the disoriented monster. Shin summons the power of lightning, an energy blade glowing fiercely in his hand. The blade slashes through, leaving a deep gash in the monster's pitch-black armor. Shin's relentless flurry of attacks leaves the monster completely overwhelmed. Mimi watches the battle from afar, unable to hide her shock at Shin's incredibly brutal fighting style. System issues a danger warning. Shin's vitality is dropping rapidly in the searing heat. Conversely, the monster's vitality is also hitting critical levels following the rapid-fire assault. The monster launches a counterattack, sharp threads firing out from its body. Shin is suddenly bound tight by the monster's threads, unable to move his body. Trapped in the silk cocoon, Shin grits his teeth, struggling to find a way out. Shin collapses into the sea of fire, the tight cocoon making him an easy target. Agony surges as the flames begin to lick at the cocoon, and Shin cries out in desperation. The heat becomes unbearable. Shin struggles to break free, but the cocoon is too durable. With energy exploding, Shin pours his remaining strength into activating his ultimate skill. The monster charges forward, ready to finish off the bound Shin. Mimi witnesses the scene, crying out in despair as all efforts seem futile. Shin's hand reaches out amidst the red flames, a decisive blow about to be unleashed. In the heart of the raging fire, Shin decisively reaches out and grabs the screaming, desperate monster. Even with only 426 vitality left, Shin flashes a triumphant smile as the flames completely incinerate the binding spider silk. Seeing this, Mimi cannot hold back tears of joy as she realizes Shin is still safe and sound. The giant monster rides in the inferno, its roars echoing through the dark void. Shin's eyes flash with a piercing red light, ready to deliver the final killing blow to his target. Be gone! A critical strike pierces through the monster's body, ending the existence of this demon. The system announces the monster has been eliminated. Shin levels up to 12, current vitality stabilized at 360. Escaping the danger zone, Shin performs a spectacular leap away from the dying sea of fire. Mimi runs over, concerned, as she sees Shin still covered in the red embers from the battle. The burning status effect is removed, leaving Shin with only 144 vitality points after the fierce battle with the monster. Breathing a sigh of relief, Shin admits that he has just pushed past his own life and death limit. Nini looks at Shin with astonishment, unable to believe that he actually accomplished the impossible. Shin smiles and pats Mimi's head, confidently asserting his stature in front of the young girl. The intimate gesture makes Mimi blush in embarrassment, her heart racing at Shin's display of affection. Generous reward appears as treasure chests brimming with gold and silver glistening under a mystical light. Shin wears an expectant smile, hoping that this time some top-tier gear for him will drop. Activating his looting skill, Shin begins gathering all the spoils into his personal storage space. Blue rays of light surround the treasure chests and everything quickly vanishes into Shin's inventory. Passive evolution triggers, 12 silver coins transform into 12 gold coins and the armor-piercing bow upgrades to silver rank. Shin is exhilarated by this sudden wealth, the kind of fortune he had to grind for an entire month in his previous life. Mimi curiously asks about the concept of a previous life, causing Shin to startle as he realizes he let something slip. Shin laughs it off, making an excuse that it was just experience from an old game he used to play. The silver rank armor-piercing bow boasts a plus 50 attack power and the ability to significantly reduce the enemy's defense. A magnificent bow indeed. Shin silently thinks this is the perfect weapon to deal with high defense foes. Shin immediately equips the new bow and a blue surge of power ripples out, surrounding his body. Next is the silver rank refined steel gauntlets, boosting Shin's attack speed and energy capacity significantly. The golden greatsword also emerges with a golden sword aura, dealing 30% additional damage with every swing. Although the sword is powerful, Shin regrets that he cannot use it, planning to give it to Mimi as a gift instead. Finally, there is the life amulet, a crucial item that helps Shin recover HP and energy continuously without the need for potions. With his new gear, Shin's stats soar, and he is ready for the tough challenges ahead alongside Mimi. Shin has just completed the hidden quest to find Madame Gu's daughter. The system immediately announces the prestigious reward, the legendary treasure chest of Gulinger. The legendary chest appears with a brilliant purple aura, radiating a mesmerizing power right before Shin's eyes. A monster's voice rings out defiantly, declaring that Shin's luck will determine exactly what lies inside this chest. A brilliant magical light erupted from the treasure chest, a massive pillar of energy tearing through the space right in front of Shin. An entity emerged from the stream of light and an illusory figure began to be summoned. The system announced that the new epic great skill clone was ready, costing 50 energy to summon a replica to fight alongside Shin. Shin was stunned by the power he had just attained, his eyes widening in astonishment. The system panel continued to list the clone's capabilities, allowing the replica to inherit 40% of Shin's attack power and synchronize all his moves. Shin realized the terrifying potential. The fact that his clone could replicate his skills meant his damage output would effectively double. Shin retracted the skill, satisfied with the massive boost this epic grade ability provided for the late game. Nini spoke up, interrupting Shin's excitement, reminding him that his luck was only at an average level. Nini explained the equipment tiers, asserting that her treasure chests only drop items of gold rank and above. The system confirmed that Shin had officially learned the level 1 clone skill. Shin confidently told Nini that the equipment tier didn't matter as much as the skill of the user. Nini pouted in disdain at Shin's arrogant attitude. Shin secretly thought that with his evolution skill, it wouldn't be long before he possessed a full set of legendary grade equipment and skills. Shin admired the image of the God Demon grade equipment set, the pinnacle of all power in this game. Shin resolved to find that set, believing it was the key to bringing the game's power into reality. The system continued to announce that Shin had discovered the blue scale armor and the 7-star heart-piercing arrow skill. Without hesitation, Shin commanded the system to equip them immediately. A wave of energy enveloped Shin's body as he donned his new gear. Feeling his combat power soar, Shin was confident that he was now capable of challenging bosses above level 20. Under the cold moonlight, the cat village appeared, dilapidated and desolate. Shin approached and witnessed a mother embracing her daughter in boundless gratitude. The mother choked up as she thanked Shin for finding her lost daughter, and their favorability rating increased by 50. Shin calculated that once favorability reached 100%, he would unlock a hidden dungeon, but first he needed to complete the high-reward quest in this village. The child waved goodbye, promising to see Shin again in the future. Suddenly, a call of Big Brother echoed from somewhere, making Shin turn around in surprise. It turned out to be Yoin, who was standing by the gaming device, reminding Shin that he had been grinding for 10 hours straight. Yoin worriedly demanded that Shin log out immediately to eat, insisting he shouldn't neglect his health. Shin sighed, took off his helmet, and thought to himself that while leveling up was important, he couldn't let Yoin worry. Shin sat in his wheelchair, silently looking at the lunchbox on the table while Yoin stood by, taking care of him. Yoin gently reminded Shin that even though he was busy with the game, eating properly was vital for his recovery. Shin smiled and scratched his head, responding to Yoin's concern with a promise to listen so she wouldn't have to worry anymore. Before Shin's eyes were lunchboxes with food that looked charred and blackened, not a very promising result. Shin looked up, skeptically asking if Yoin had prepared all these dishes herself. Yoin excitedly boasted that she had spent the entire afternoon busy in the kitchen just to cook a nutritious meal specifically for Shin. Unable to refuse Yoin's kindness, Shin picked up his chopsticks and began to taste the food. Immediately, a horrific salty taste exploded in his mouth, making Shin unable to bear it as his face contorted in pain. Yoin remained expectant, innocently asking Shin if the food was delicious. Yoin rested her chin on her hands, wearing a bright smile full of hope as she waited for a compliment from Shin. Shin struggled to swallow the bite of food, his throat constricted by the unpalatably salty taste. Although he was screaming internally, Shin still forced a smile and complimented Yoin on how delicious the meal was. Yoin was visibly thrilled, immediately scooping up another spoonful of burnt food and offering it to Shin. Shin had no choice but to force a smile again, opening his mouth to accept yet another disastrous serving of food. Shin's body began to react violently, cold sweat trickled down his forehead as a wave of discomfort washed over him. Yoin panicked when she saw Shin suddenly clutching his chest, anxiously asking him what had happened. Shin could no longer endure it, he collapsed onto his wheelchair, leaving Yoin in a state of shock. The door to Special Room 05 remained silent, the place where Shin had just experienced a sudden medical emergency. Shin slowly opened his eyes, a sense of overwhelming fatigue clouding his mind as he regained consciousness. Yoin was so happy she burst into tears seeing that Shin had woken up, and she hurriedly asked about his condition. Shin tried to reassure Yoin that he was fine, claiming it was just a headache from exhaustion. A nurse walked in, informing Shin that he had suffered from mild food poisoning the previous day. Shin was stunned, unable to believe that the reason he ended up in the hospital was simply food poisoning. Yoin was devastated, sobbing in regret as she realized that the very meal she had cooked with her own hands had sent Shin to the hospital. Shin calmly asked Yoin where she had purchased those ingredients and who had provided them. Yoin explained that she hadn't bought the ingredients herself but that someone else had sent them to her. Fury was evident on Shin's face as he cursed the person who had used such dirty tactics to harm him. The nurse added that the ingredients themselves were fine, but they could easily cause poisoning if not prepared properly. Shin realized the mastermind's scheme. They had exploited Yoin's clumsiness to carry out an assassination attempt without leaving any traces. Shin sternly warned Yoin that from now on anything arriving from an unknown source must be thrown away immediately. With teary eyes, Yoin nodded firmly, promising to keep Shin's instructions in mind. With a cold, murderous glint in his eyes, Shin declared that their battle had only just truly begun. In the hospital, Shin smiles to reassure Yoin, urging her to leave quickly so he can get some rest. Yoin excitedly promises to return in the afternoon, planning to go to the market herself and cook a delicious meal for Shin. Shin tactfully refuses, claiming it's unnecessary and telling Yoin to just let the butler handle the shopping. Yoin waves goodbye happily, not forgetting to remind Shin not to get too lost in the game world. Shin responds dismissively, his mind already fully focused on his upcoming plans in the game. The room falls silent as Shin lies on the hospital bed while the nurse quietly steps outside. The nurse dwells on Shin's former wealth and power, craving a chance to cling to him and change her life. Even though Shin is currently crippled, the nurse still believes this is a golden opportunity for her to enjoy a life of luxury and riches. Nurse approaches, asking about Shin in a sweet voice, trying to create an alluring atmosphere. The nurse doesn't hesitate to declare that she will do anything for Shin's health as long as he asks. Shin ignores the nurse's attitude and bluntly demands to be taken to his gaming pod immediately. The nurse is stunned, indignantly wondering if the game has more appeal than her own seductive charm. The modern gaming pod stands tall in the middle of the room, casting a faint blue glow from the device. Shin puts on the VR headset, his expression turning serious, ready to log into the virtual world. Login process begins, and Shin appears in his majestic warrior avatar. Stepping into the game world, Shin is surprised to see the crowd is significantly larger than last time. A system notification pops up confirming the total number of players has officially hit 300,000. Shin knows that alongside the expensive gaming pods, affordable VR devices have also hit the market, sparking a player population boom. Without hesitation, Shin orders the status window to open to check his stats. The system window displays details of his current equipment, from the armor-piercing bow to the blue-scaled armor and other valuable items. Shin calculates carefully, planning to find the village chief in Sand Village to accept a protection quest. This is his best chance to grind levels. Amidst the bustling town, Shin walks calmly, searching for the path to the equipment shop. Shin stops in front of the store, deciding to head inside in search of the special equipment he has been waiting for. Inside the shop, Shin encounters the shopkeeper standing by the counter, ready for business. Shopkeeper politely adjusts his monocle and asks Shin what he is looking to purchase. Shin observes his surroundings, his eyes fixed on the weapons and armor displayed on the walls. Rows of helmets and suits of armor hang neatly, ready for players to choose upgrades for themselves. Shin realizes that since the server just opened, silver tier gear is already a rarity, and any better gold tier items have surely been kept hidden by the shopkeeper. Without hesitation, Shin bluntly asks the shopkeeper to bring out the most valuable treasures in the store. The shopkeeper sneers, tactfully refusing and pointing towards the displayed items, promising a discount if Shin likes anything. Seeing Shin's persistence, the shopkeeper thinks to himself that he has the goods but worries this customer can't afford them. Shin slams his hand onto the counter, decisively making his offer. On the table, Shin places a sparkling blue crystal to be used as payment. The system announces it is a crystal coin, a valuable item used to increase NPC favorability or sold to merchants for 5 gold coins. Seeing the crystal coin, the shopkeeper's attitude does a 180-degree turn, immediately recognizing Shin as a VIP and ordering his servant to open the secret door. The secret door in the shop slowly slides open, revealing the entrance to a room filled with rare treasures. The shopkeeper respectfully invites Shin inside, putting on a flattering smile. Before Shin's eyes lies a collection of glittering gold tier equipment, waiting for a new master. The shopkeeper explains that these items weren't meant to be sold for another 30 days, but since Shin has arrived, he is prioritizing him to choose first. Shin's eyes suddenly froze as he caught sight of a special item. It was the white tiger mask, a piece of equipment priced at 6 crystal coins. Shin flashed a confident smile, asserting that this was exactly the item he needed. Once the transaction was complete, Shin stepped outside with a new look, leaving only 1 crystal coin in his pocket. Shin put on the white tiger mask, activating anonymity mode to maximize the benefits of this gold tier equipment right from the early stages. The system displayed the stats of the white tiger mask, plus 15 to defense, strength, and spirit, along with a special tiger form effect that masks identity and exerts pressure on low-level opponents. Shin believed that with this gear, conquering the secret sandworm dungeon would be far easier for him than for any ordinary player. Another player caught sight of Shin and gasped in astonishment at the imposing mask. The player's teammate immediately called him a fool, confirming it was a rare gold tier item. Another player couldn't help but be shocked, suspecting Shin of cheating, as it shouldn't be that easy to buy high-level equipment with real money. Suddenly, a large hand landed on Shin's shoulder, forcing him to halt his steps. A hulking man appeared, smirking and demanding that Shin stay calm. Shin turned around coldly and asked the brute what he wanted. The hulking man complimented Shin's gear and offered to play with it. The brute and his henchmen surrounded Shin with a provocative attitude. Shin casually held the mask in his hand and countered the brute with a challenging question. The brute sneered, suspecting that Shin was either a mindless pay-to-win player or a hacker. The brute threatened Shin, telling him to hand over the equipment obediently unless he wanted his account banned. Faced with such absurd threats, Shin wore a cold, challenging smile. Unfazed, he turned to face the group and mocked them. "Sounds like you guys are trying to rob me, is that it?